Hey, to my allies, gays, and theys. Today you only get half a Hazel. I'm Holly, and today I'm going to tell you about the version of me that was allowed. Kind of about my childhood, growing up, how I became me. So I feel like when I was young, I didn't have to perform as much. You're young. I didn't think of boys or girls. You know, I loved trying new things. I had lots of friends. Just your typical childhood. I was very loved by my mom and my stepdad. My grandparents were a huge part of my life. Growing up here in Ashland, Missouri, I didn't really have an idea of like queerness, mental health, nothing like that. So anytime I had feelings, I didn't really know, what is going on? What are these? What am I feeling right now? I just kind of glided on through. For a long time, I had thought that love came from being easy, impressive, and agreeable, not from being honest. I feel like in my early life, my parents had divorced when I was pretty young. My sister and I are 8 years apart, so she remembers that a little bit better than I do. I feel like with my dad's absence, he had only lived 10 minutes away. He was there financially, but emotionally or physically, consistently was not there. I also thought a lot about why didn't my dad want to see me and my sister more. I didn't really feel like I understood why he wasn't going to come back, but I do have to say, Rick, my stepdad, has been in my life forever. And he is a big teddy bear, and he's always been there to support me through literally everything. Yeah, he cried with me when I didn't make cheerleading in high school. Just a big freaking softie. Love you, Rick. So still with my dad, I feel like it wasn't that he didn't care, which I see that more now. I just don't think he was really prepared to be a father, and even though he had my sister 8 years previous, he didn't really know how to father then either, I feel. So it makes me sad because I feel like we could have had a really good relationship. My dad's goofy. I hear maybe not as goofy when we were younger, but again, I think that probably comes with the stress of not being able to really be reliable as a family guy. I also told my mom one time I was gonna go to dad's. I was gonna run away and I was gonna live with dad, and she told me, do it. Go do it. See if you get to go to the pool, if you get to have friends over, if you get to do this. And I was like, you know what? You're right. So that was the end of running away or wanting to run away to go live with dad when things got hard, or I was just being selfish and wasn't seeing it, Yeah. I feel like I was good at reading moods and becoming very observant of the room and how I could mold to fit what everyone else liked or needed, which is kind of toxic. But also, I feel like that's more common than not. I don't like to be ruffle people's feathers. That's not something I'm into. It stresses me out when people are mad at me. People didn't like me. That bothered me because I thought I was a good person, and why wouldn't you like me? Because I had too many friends. I wasn't real. Yeah, I just really like peace in my life and not chaos. Although in my 20s I can see it was a little chaotic, and it is crazy to be busy like that and then to live now and feel relaxed and not have to, you don't go out all the time, you're not spending money all the time, you're not making poor choices if you're out drinking, doing whatever. Sports. Listen, I know a lot of y'all think that I didn't do sports, but I want you guys to know that I did taekwondo, and I was 3 belts away from a black belt, and when we got to spar, I beat the crap out of this boy that I grew up with. So, that's pretty cool. Other things that I did, I think I did gymnastics, and that was fun. I'm not really one for individual sports. But me and my friend Rochelle, we used to go to actually we did everything together, but we would go to gymnastics class, and that was fun because we were both really girly, so we get to wear like the cute little outfits, you know. I tried soccer. I remember getting hit in the face with a soccer ball, and it was super cold outside, so that was the end of that, and I'd say that was probably like kindergarten age. If I had to guess, I was a cheerleader from 7th grade to my senior year of high school, and I absolutely loved it. I loved getting to be with my friends. I hated yelling. I hated when you had to start the cheers by yourself. Any of that, which is crazy because, girl, that's what... Oh, also, when I did karate, they made you yell. Was not a fan of that. That was just embarrassing. Cheerleading. I also really loved that we got to do a dance. That was my favorite part of cheerleading, was when we got to do like a dance for football or basketball, but I was not very good at comprehending. Like, it took me forever to comprehend the dances, and so sometimes we had to be singled out and do the dance until we got it correct. And I would like to say our cheerleading coach really made us look hella good. We looked on point. But that was stressful, you know, for someone who has a hard time learning and gets embarrassed, singled out. That's why I didn't like single sports. I also did softball. I loved softball. Again, with a different group of friends. I really loved going. I was first base and pitcher. I know, you're probably shocked because Kaz and her grandpa like to think that I couldn't hit a ball back then, but I was actually pretty good, if I may say so myself. But with cheerleading, so I started therapy last year, and my therapist was like, tell me about your high school experience. And so I said I was a cheerleader, had a lot of friends, and she was like, And I was like, yeah, happy, you know, because I was a cheerleader, you have to be. And she was like, oh, so you're telling me that you're pretty good at wearing a mask because you're only allowed to have one face. You're only allowed to, you know, be happy, cheer. There's no not cheering because you're a cheerleader. So those days were difficult whenever you would, you know, be stressed out from school. I had a boyfriend also. Girl, what was you doing? Not just because he was a boy, but because it made me cuckoo. It made me crazy. And that describes men for me. No, just kidding. But anyway, I also learned how to just cover up my emotions while I was in cheerleading and stuffing those away and, you know, making sure everybody else has a good time. Another guy I dated was a piece of work, was great in the beginning, so great, but then it got so toxic, and it was one of those situations where, girl, now that I look back, like, you should have ran for the hills. I got so wrapped up that you know, it was like we'd be together, then we'd break up, and we'd be together, and my mom didn't want me to be with him, which, girl was right. Yeah, that was a really rocky relationship for me. I feel like carried into adult life within my relationships. So I also dated a guy previously that was goofy, made me laugh. I thought I'd be stupid not to date him because he's a nice dude, you know, like, green flag. We should have followed all the green flags. All the other ones have lots of red flags. Anyway, we don't ever have to worry about that again. We love that. I knew I was attracted to girls in 8th grade. It's actually when I started to, like, notice boys and girls. Actually, you know what? I liked both boys and girls, I think, then. A lot of just playing around at first. You have, like, not circle of death, that's adulthood. Spin the bottle, which I do recall was like a soda can, or not a soda can, but a soda bottle. So that was silly. And that was like kissing boys, you know. And then you kind of got into the swing where it would switch and woohoo, if it landed on a girl, that's fun. That's super cool. I knew that being gay was not approved in my family. My mom made it very apparent that wasn't allowed, and so I stuffed that down and pretty much knew that was never going to be an option, so I had to keep a lot of things secret. I remember when, you know, we had one of those sleepovers and everyone ended up kissing, whatever. And then being so gaslit about it, like kind of catching the feels. And then, I don't know, the thought, I guess, wasn't reciprocated. Now that I think about that. Okay, so the emotionally damaging relationship. So that was definitely more of like psychological, I guess. This person was very heavy into pills and drugs. Yeah, things got kind of sketchy and scary. I remember one time we were like driving and he had been drinking, and then he had like, I don't know, I said something to like make him mad, and so he slammed on the gas and we ended up like going into like a rock wall. We would fight, but you know, if they didn't want people to know about it, then they shouldn't have done it. Anyway, we were toxic, and that's that. I didn't really know how to ask for better because I wasn't sure that I deserved better. And I think I felt that a lot, which makes me really sad now because I think I'm so worth loving. I just strive to keep everyone else happy and uplifted, and that makes me feel happy inside, but sometimes it takes out of my cup, you know? But overall, I love making my friends happy. Whenever I was in school growing up, I had an IEP. Learning was hard for me. I had comprehension problems. So I was in like a special education class all through school, which I didn't really find embarrassing. And then I got into middle school and they had like a music video class where you get to like lip sing, and that's when it like first hit me. And they're like, yeah, you can't take that class because you're gonna have to be in the special education because you need help, extra help. And I was like, that is so rude. And then I think about it and I was like, girl, you would not have been able to get up there and do that. Like, you crazy. Well, actually, you know what? I was very outgoing then. I could have maybe. Middle school, 8th grade, I felt confident. Oh, I definitely fell behind, like smartness wise, but I feel like beauty wise and stuff like that. If I probably could have focused on school as much as I loved dyeing my hair, hanging with my friends, learning music lyrics. I have so many music lyrics in my head, but I couldn't learn past algebra. You go, girl. Young adulthood. I really loved chaos. I loved going to the club Thursday through Saturday. That was my cardio. It was a lot of drinking. But you know, I just loved to dance, and so that was like 4 to 5 hours of cardio. And I got to be with my friends. I did not attend therapy after high school. I didn't attend it in my early 20s, but you know what? We attended it and life got much better. Can't recommend therapy enough because stuff from your past will follow you into your future and into your relationships, and it's so important that you take care of yourself. I had no diagnosis of bipolar yet. I suffered with depression and had tried SSRIs. I ended up stopping them usually. I was also on a lot of medication because I ended up getting diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. I've had 2 colonoscopies before the age of 30. I was sick all the time. It was super hard. I was in and out of the emergency room. I would eat, go directly to the bathroom. It was awful. And so I was dealing with that, which I didn't think affected me as much as it did, but I was on steroids for so long, it made me feel crazy. And so that was also just kind of a stem, I think, that really made me hit depression. You know, you feel like shit 24/7, and that's just not it. Unhealthy relationship, hookup continued into the 20s, and then that ended, thank God. I did have a girl I had a crush on, end of high school into hair school, I do believe. Yeah, I think that's the right time frame. Anyway, huge crush. She was older than me. She was gorgeous. She was into the same things. So nervous to talk to her. I still think she's such a cool woman. It did not go anywhere. That was before I was out, and you know that that wasn't going to be allowed to be a thing, unfortunately, then. So that ended, and I still was talking to gross boys. Coming out did not go well. Kaz ended up having such a great response with both sets of her parents and her grandparents that made me want to come out. And I was like, you know what? Maybe it'll go better than I think. Wrong. And I will say, I would just want to put this out there. The things that my mom said to me at this time were super hard to take in. A lot of it, I think, is just how she grew up, you know? And so she's so much open-minded now, and like, I'm so proud of her. She loves Kaz, I think, more than she loves Christy and I. You know, Kaz is the favorite daughter role, and I never thought that I'd be able to have that. So, ew, getting emotional. So that was a bit difficult. My stepdad didn't take it horrible. I had to tell him after I told my mom, and I was like, I would really like a few days to tell him, and that was not happening. She made me tell him right then and there, which I was scared. Why, girl? He's supported you. Anyway, I was more scared to tell him, and he basically said, well, you want to have kids, you want to have babies. And I said, I can still have babies. There's lots of babies and kids in this world that need adopted. I could have one if I wanted. 10 years ago, you know, things were starting to change. Now you can combine yours and make a baby. We're not on the baby train. We had previously thought we would each carry, and then we both decided we didn't want to go through that. So then we talked about adoption, fostering, but we're just not on the kid train, and we're happy with our decision. We love traveling. I love sleeping in. It's the no days off for me with kids, but I absolutely love watching my friends and my family and their kids, and I love that I can see them and send them home. Auntie is the best. The problem with a lot of bipolar people is we will take our meds, we'll start to feel so good. We don't need those meds anymore, because we're healed. Yeah, I learned that is not it. That is not what we should be doing. We need to do that to stay stable. And then also, it doesn't only help you, but all the people around you, because those up and downs are rough. And it's not like what people describe bipolar as. I could sit and fester in my feelings forever. And that's something I've also had to really work on, because I thought that Kaz could always read my mind when I was angry, and then it would make me more angry that she wasn't gathering what I was saying. And she was trying, you know, but my freaking agitation and all of that, I don't think anyone could think that I could get that angry or whatever, but I do. I even had a client told me, there's no way you have bipolar, you're too happy. And I was like, yeah, that's because you get this. I'm a hairstylist. I don't want to cry at work. I'll, have to if I tell you, then the next person might hear, the next hairstylist over might hear, and then I'm gonna have to explain it over and over, which is also why I'm excited to share this journey, because I feel like even if I could help one person, being a hairstylist with bipolar is hard. Being a lesbian in a red state is nerve-wracking. Yeah, so I would just like to be out here helping people, as I feel like I always have wanted to do. So that's pretty cool. I have also been consistent with my meds, solid for over a year. I had taken some time off of my meds because that year I was taking great care of myself. I was in therapy. I was doing workouts every Saturday with my wifey. The mental health was just very good that year. But then, times come, and sometimes you just have to have that medication, and it's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. The moment I came out, even though it went horrible, that weight that lifted off of my shoulder was crazy. Absolutely crazy. I could finally be me. I don't have to hide anymore. I don't have to lie anymore. I felt emotionally safer. Me and Kaz, you know, I scooted in. I got the Milwaukees and, you know, scooted into her apartment. Her mom was a safe space at the time. I don't have to lie anymore, which whenever I was young and I would go be, you know, out at a party doing whatever, things I probably wasn't supposed to be doing. And I'd go home and I'd have to lie about what I was doing because, like, you know, I'm a teenager first off, but like you don't approve of who I am, so I have to be in these two bodies, I guess. You know, I am molding to whatever I had to rein it in at home, which was also very hard. We had moved in with my grandma in high school after my grandpa had passed away, and we moved from, I loved our house. It was so fun, great memories in that house. But we moved in with my grandma into a double wide trailer, and my grandma ended up getting dementia. So it was like having a little sister growing up. Not growing up, I guess she's like going backwards. But anyway, it was a lot of just repetitiveness. She was always scared to be alone, and it really affected all of us. There was a point when I think my stepdad had talked about like divorce. It was getting so bad my grandma didn't recognize him. He'd come in from mowing the lawn and she'd be like, "Who are you?" And you know, that would upset him. My mom took care of her as long as she could. She went into a nursing home, and Kaz actually got to meet my grandma, which I think is pretty cool. Not that I don't really know if she knew what was going on. My grandma was just a very smiley, like, you know, when she was in her good moods. I also got to come out to her, which I also don't really know if she was gathering what was going on, but she didn't say anything negative. She didn't, you know, do anything that made me feel that way. So I feel like whenever I was younger, I was just kind of surviving, and this is more into the bad relationship in high school and into the chaos that I brought into my adulthood. I feel like I adapted to whoever I needed to feel safe, you know, where I wouldn't ruffle anybody's feathers, anything like that. And that I wasn't weak, that I was going through a lot, and I just didn't talk about it. So I think that's where everyone kind of gets the, like, you're so happy, there's no way you have bipolar. I think I've covered everything that I wanted to cover. I just wanted to go a little more in depth because I know that we talked about mental health last episode, me and Kaz's like past individually, but I feel like there was just stuff that I had missed out on, or, you know, getting to like talk about. My little tiny dog, Cooper, who I got in my early 20s with a boyfriend, he's my little soul dog, and he's just over here staring at me, but he will turn 12 this year, and he has literally been through everything with me. If he could talk, I could only imagine what he would say. But he ended up having to go live with a family whenever me and a past boyfriend broke up and we were living together, and why he couldn't just take care of our dogs till I got stable. My mom's dog did not like those dogs, so that's why we couldn't bring him in. And then it didn't work out, and Cooper got to come back, and we have been inseparable since. So he's also been a big contributor to my mental health. Dogs do so much, pets do so much. I highly recommend getting you a pet. It gives you something to take care of, you know, and why stop at one? You could have 4. But thanks for joining me in my first single podcast. It was probably all over the place, but I'm excited to do more and try to get more comfortable in front of the camera. Also, if you're just having trouble with your mental health, my inbox is always open. Okay. Happy day.